Hey guys, I got a quick tutorial for you today. If you saw my video last week, you saw that drum tuning and new heads are the most important things for getting a good drum sound. But immediately after new heads and proper tuning is compression. Compression is your best friend with drums. That's what really gets you the sound that you're after is the compressor. Here, so I'm going to show you. I have pretty simple setup. Uh, we threw this together last minute. It's just a 6 mic setup. So we have a mic on the kick, we have a top and bottom snare mic, we have a tom mic, and we have an overhead left and right. It's all being routed into this bus. And so, yeah, so I'm going to show you what happens when we turn these compressors on. So you can see that just adds so much to the sound. So I'm going to show you some tricks to drum compression here. Something that I didn't realize for the longest time, unfortunately. This is the thing that I had the biggest problem with when I was starting out, was drum compression. So the key to drum compression is the attack and release. When you open this compressor default in Pro Tools, here I'll show you. If you open the compressor, it comes automatically open set up like this with a 3-to-1 ratio, a 10 millisecond attack, and an 80 millisecond release. A lot of people, when they start out, they adjust the threshold and the gain, but they don't touch any of the other knobs, and that is your biggest mistake. You need to adjust those, especially when compressing drums. So the key to drum compression is a slower attack. I usually like to say around a 30 millisecond attack is good, and a slower release. So anywhere between a 120 millisecond to a about 250 millisecond release. It depends. So here, I'm going to show you what this is doing to the kick right now. See how it kind of sounds a little basketball-y, which I'm trying to avoid. And there's just a little bit too much resonant noise. So we want to tighten that up. Listen to how the compressor does that. See, that's super tight now. It's like kick you in the gut, kind of. So I'm going to show you what happens when we turn the attack down. Let's go down to the default attack, which is 10 milliseconds, and listen to what happens. See, we lose it entirely. So that's why we're doing 30 milliseconds. Much better. And I'll also show you what happens when we adjust the release. So you're getting too much of that resonant noise. It's just kind of ringing weird, and I'm not a fan. So yeah, adjust your attack and release knobs. Now we're going to move on to the snare top mic. I'll show you how it sounds. There's a lot of bleed in this track. Like I said, we just kind of threw the drum setup together really fast. We just wanted to get this video done. So try to ignore the bleed, just focus on what's going on with the snare here. See how much more that pops? It's great. All right, we adjusted it to a 4-to-1 ratio. What I didn't mention on the kick was that was a 5-to-1 ratio as opposed to the default 3-to-1. Again, we have about a 30 millisecond attack, and now we have a 125 millisecond release. Again, I'll show you what happens when we adjust the attack and release knobs. See, when it's a faster attack, you lose all the punch because the compressor's kicking in on the transient. You need to let the transient through in order to get your drums to pop. And I'll show you what happens when we adjust the release. See, if we lose that, we get a little too much ring. Right now, I like it where it is. It's controlled. It rings a little bit, so you can hear it. You can hear that nice tone, but it's controlled. The bottom snare mic, we're doing pretty much the exact same thing. See, again, around 30 millisecond attack, 4:1 ratio, around 120 millisecond release. You can just really hear on this what that does to the high-end sizzle. It really makes that cut through. It sounds so flat when you turn that off. All right, now let's go to the tom. So with the tom, we actually had a lot of ringing in this tom. We probably should have thrown some moon gels on it, but it is what it is. So let's see what that sounds like before compression. See, not terrible, it's just it's sustaining a little too long. So let's listen to what happens when we kick the compressor on. See, it's much tighter. The attack, you can hear when he actually strikes the drum, you can hear that that's a little tighter, and the sustain cuts out a little quicker. So same thing we're doing with the attack, but I'm going to show you what happens with the release on this one, because as we adjust the release, it really messes with the sustain. See, if you do a slower release, it rings way too long, and a faster release, then the attack isn't tight enough. So I think we had that right around, yeah, right around 140, I believe. So that's good middle ground. So let's, there's no compression on the cymbals. I only compress the drums. I didn't even EQ the cymbals actually. So let's see what happens when we kick these compressors on and off. See, it just sounds so much less amateur when you put those compressors on right. Like you can hear there's way too much room tone before the compression. Sounds like a trashy room, but if we do this, it helps a lot. Yeah, you still got a little bit of that trashy room tone, but now we're going to get into that with this here. This is a compressor we put on the drum bus. So doing the same thing, it's a 30 millisecond attack, but we left it at a 3:1 ratio. And this is a longer release. And this is because we want it to compress the overall track. Whereas with the first drums, we kind of want the compressor to kick on and off to adjust to the individual hits of the drums. On the bus, we want to compress the whole track as overall through the whole thing. So let's listen to what this one's doing, and this is the one where the punch really comes out. See, that's the real fun stuff, is that compressor there. All right, so that's pretty much it for drum compression. Like I said, the trick is a slower attack. Compression is definitely the most important thing to a good drum tone. Immediately after having proper tuning and new heads on your drums. So if you want to learn how to tune your drums better, If you missed the video last week, you can go to garagerecordingacademy.com. We have a free drum tuning guide that you can download. It's a PDF file. It takes you all the way through all the steps to tuning the drums. A lot of it is from the video last week. A lot of it's just the same stuff that was discussed in the video written down, but there are a couple of bonuses in there, including a drum dial cheat sheet. So that gives you a bunch of basic tensions and such to set your drums to initially when you're first tuning the drums. You can adjust them after, of course, but that's a chart of our recommended drum dial settings. And then we also have a list of our drum heads in there, which drum heads we use. So if you're interested in any of that information, again, it's garagerecordingacademy.com. Download that free guide. All right, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.